Speaking of breakthrough players, why don't we talk about that? So why don't we start? Well, we'll start on offense. So do you think Brown? Would you put him in as one of your one or two from the holdovers, of course, not from any transfers or in recruiting, but do you think that Brown would qualify as one of your two breakout players on offense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's a electric slot receiver. I think his missed tackle forced is going to be pretty high. I've kind of been waiting for Samir Higgins to break out for the last couple years, and he just hasn't been able to put it together with consistency. So I always say that you're never too old to have a breakout season.
Sure.
If Samir Higgins puts it all together from a consistency standpoint, it could be him. The other one is Peyton Jones, the running back, who I don't think they're a staff that's going to give a guy 25 to 30 touches a game. So it'll be pretty balanced between Moore and Jones. And I think Anderson Castle will give them some short yardage package stuff. But man, for 2 years, it's felt like we're seeing glimpses of Peyton Jones able to be a game-breaking back, able to be a guy that can give you 12 carries for 90 yards and a couple touchdowns. I think that's coming this year.
And Moore, he was injured last year. Jaquez Moore.
Yeah, he got hurt. He got hurt up on the temporary turf at Northwestern.
Okay, so and he was a pretty important part of their backfield for the first couple of years, correct? And until the injury last year.
Yeah, it was. So Elko's first year, he was number 3 in line, and he was really good. But the two guys in front of him just never got hurt, so he didn't have that many chances. And then the second year, so 2023,
okay,
he had a great season. I think he scored at least one touchdown, maybe 2 against Clemson in the season opener that year. He's a good explosive runner too.
Okay, but right now we're gonna go with Jones and Brown on offense. What about on defense for breakout players?
I would say Preston Watson was really impressive as a freshman defensive tackle last year. I never anticipate much from freshmen that have to play really close to the ball, but he showed some promise there.
Okay.
And then the other one is Kamari Robinson is going to step into a starting role at corner opposite Chandler Rivers. I mean, Chandler Rivers is already broken out for all intents and purposes. He's getting preseason All-American nods and that kind of thing. But as these things go, like if Chandler Rivers has this type of season that I think he can have, he's not going to get the ball thrown to his side of the field very often.
Yeah, that's true.
So the corner opposite him, Kamari Robinson made a lot of decent plays last year. As again, he's kind of a guy that was the number 3 corner, so he wasn't getting starter reps, but he was playing a significant amount. I think he wound up around 300 or 400 snaps. So now I expect, like, stepping up into a starting role, he'll have more of an opportunity to be a playmaker, and especially because the corner opposite him is a preseason All-American.
Yeah, taking a look at the top guys, not necessarily like you said, breakouts because they've already broken out. I guess we could probably stick on defense, and so you've seen some good players, even some DBs. Matter of fact, I'm trying to remember. Didn't they do? Who was their last really good corner that they had come out the last several years? Did they have one? How does Chandler Rivers rank? Let's just put it that way. With some of the DBs that have come out of Duke since you've been covering them in the last 5 years, 6 years.
I'll tell you what, the thing that impresses me the most about Chandler Rivers is he is obviously not the biggest guy. I think they list him at 5'10", maybe 180. The amount of times that he's one-on-one with a receiver or tight end or running back who is significantly bigger than him, and he still winds up getting a one-on-one tackle against them is so impressive. That's the first thing that stands out before you get into the ball hawking stuff, to the point where I think there was a 5-game stretch last year where he had his hands on the ball 5 times or 4 times between a strip sack and a couple interceptions, and I think another like fumble recovery. He's got a nose for the ball. He's been a starter since halfway through his freshman year, and he's going into his senior year. So he's seen just about everything. I think if I remember correctly, he was called for 1 penalty last year.
Okay.
He's just everything you would want in a lockdown college corner. I don't know how that's going to stack up in the pros. It's these days it feels like if you're not 6'3", you can't play at receiver in the NFL unless you have this absurd separation skills. So they want their corners to be as big as the receivers to be able to knock the ball away from them. But I have a hard time thinking that Chandler Rivers can't find an NFL roster and a draft spot because of his knack for making plays. Just how much film is out there of him doing the right things and being in the right spot and always being around the ball.
Well, maybe he can play the exact spot, because now I just checked and see. I knew there was somebody, because he actually plays for my team, the Jets, and that's Michael Carter.
Yeah.
And I was like, because Carter is also actually considered one of the better nickel corners in the NFL. And maybe that's the spot Chandler Rivers will play with his size limitations. So that is definitely possible. So that might be a good comparison. And who knows, maybe when he comes out, that's exactly what some of the scouts might even do. They like to do that. So, okay. Then we've got Wesley Williams. Is he considered equally as important as far as talent? Is he definitely the top pass rusher on the team?
I kind of think it's a toss-up between Wesley Williams and VJ Anthony. That's
good.
Their seasons kind of happened in inverse last year. It looked like for the new system that Vincent Anthony Jr. was the better of the two, and then in the second half of the year, I would have told you that Wesley Williams was playing a little bit better than VJ was. They're both very skilled pass rushers. VJ was finally able to bulk up a little bit. He played a lot as a freshman and sophomore under Mike Elko and was underweight for all intents and purposes. I mean, he was trying to play defensive end in the ACC at about 220 pounds, maybe 230.
Okay.
He was able to finally kind of fill out, and the scheme fit him better last year. The shift from what Mike Elko does defensively to what Manny Diaz does, it fit VJ a little bit better. And Wesley Williams, he's the one that I kind of think is a player who fits any scheme. He's big, physical, maybe 270, 280, looks like he was kind of constructed in one of those creative players in a video game.
First man off the bus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, VJ is a little bit more speed. I think Wesley Williams is a little more versatile in pass rush moves, but both of them just give you so much that it's tough to determine which one is the better pass rusher.
And then linebacker, there's some losses there, but Morris is another guy that was banged up. Is that correct? And he's back, so that helps. And then Freeman, I noticed Freeman had a big 100-plus tackle season in 2023, but was it just a matter of the guys in front of him last year, which is better? And even though his totals went down, that he's still going to be a really good replacement for those guys, or was there an injury, or what was the deal there?
I think there was a little bit of him learning the new system, and it took a few more games than maybe he would have liked, or maybe the stats indicate. And And also, Ozzie Nicholas had a great season. Alex Howard was the other transfer from Youngstown State. They were two transfer linebackers that maybe were able to pick up the system a little quicker and fit it a little better. But yeah, look, you're in Trey Freeman. You're getting a guy that has been on the field a lot for Duke for the last 2 seasons. That's really valuable. And then there's depth there. Kendall Johnson's played a bit. They really like Luke Margot, and Nick Morris coming back is a big benefit.
Yeah. So Francois. Speaking of transfers, he had what? It's interesting. I see that he had almost similar statistical seasons to a point where he had 51 tackles and a pick 6 in 2024 and 57 tackles and a pick 6 in 2023. So I think Duke would be okay with some stats like that. Maybe they'd like a little bit more, but not necessarily, because you got Freeman and Morris there. So I would guess that. And Manny being a defensive guy, you also know anytime you have a guy like a coach like Diaz, and then you're talking about defensive players, you got to boost them up a little bit, because that's Manny Diaz's job, and you would guess that he would do a good job of that. So I would think that he's got to be pretty excited about the linebacking crew coming back, even though these are pretty much all new starters from last year.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Jaden Francois. He had a big recruiting profile and went to UCF and didn't play much, but graduated in 3 years and then played a lot at Utah State the last 2 years. He'll be in the nickel position that.
Okay.
There wasn't much to tell you last year that Duke was going to be okay at nickel. We didn't really see all that much from Cameron Bergeron in the 2 years of Mike Elko's tenure. And part of that was because Brandon Johnson was really good at that position and stayed healthy for 2 seasons. And Cameron Bergeron last year was one of the breakout players of the team. He had a great season. Quarterback pressures and got his hands on the ball a couple times and was like, oh my God, even through a coaching change, that position is able to give you a high impact player. And so I know it's never going to be this simple, but I do kind of think we'll see a lot of the same stuff from Jaden Francois.
And then you mentioned Weaver. So the safety Weaver, I mean, he had some really nice. I mean, last year for Sam Houston State, he led the team in tackles with 97, 4 interceptions, 6 pass blocks. And also in 2023, he added 49 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 PBs. And so that's some really good production, and he seems to be getting better each year. He's going to step up to the ACC. But again, as you said, until Terry Moore comes back, that's going to be a big addition. To have him kind of holding the fort along the way. But it's going to be interesting to see how he does in the ACC.
Yeah, the one note I'll add about him is I need to verify this, but he either grew up with or at least went to the same school as Chandler Rivers. So they're best friends from Texas, and they're finally getting to reunite.
That's cool.
I think Caleb has 2 seasons of eligibility. Chandler's on his last one. So they'll get to play together for 1 season.
By the way, would you have Weaver backing up Stone?
I think so. I don't know as much as I should about how Duke designates their safety positions.
It's early.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I would have told you last year Terry Moore and Jalen Stinson traded off of being the free safety or being closer to the line, because both of them, I think, had some QB pressures, but both of them also made some plays in the middle of the field 25, 30 yards deep. So I don't think they make that big of a designation between which one plays close, which one drops all the way back.
Okay. A couple of Ivy League players, Josiah Green, defensive tackle from Dartmouth on defense. And then offensively, there's the kid, and you've already mentioned him, the wide receiver, Cooper Barkate from Harvard, who had a 1,000-yard season last year. So anytime you get kids from the Ivies, it's a tricky situation, completely big time, move up in levels. But sometimes you find a player that can still make a difference. So what do you think about those two Ivy Leaguers?
Duke has been able to thrive in the Ivy League transfer market. They've gotten some really high impact guys that you wouldn't think were going to have the types of seasons they had. I mean, Ozzie Nicholas, I think, was their leading tackler last year. He came from Princeton.
Okay.
They've gotten some guys on the offensive line that, you're looking at a guy coming from playing on the offensive line at Harvard and thinking, well, I don't know how that's going to translate going from Ivy League football to ACC football. And all of a sudden you're looking at it on the field and on PFF, and it's like, oh my God, this guy, what were you concerned about? Like he's able to more than hold his own out there. And to throw things all the way back to what we started talking about with David Feely, some of these guys with Duke will tell you that when you take a guy who, not to throw shade at Ivy League facilities, but Ivy League facilities are not going to be comparable to ACC facilities.
Sure. Yeah.
When you're able to give them some more resources and some better equipment.
Yeah.
And the other part is they're not at an Ivy League school anymore. They're not doing Ivy League coursework.
Yeah. Well, they're not in the Ivy Leagues to play football.
Right.
That's not, yeah.
Right.
So
they can kind of take off with their strength and conditioning with how they're able to kind of approach football. And it hasn't worked with everybody across the board with Duke's Ivy League guys, but they've got a pretty high hit rate of the ones that they've brought in, making it work and getting a lot of good quality production from them.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing about the transfer portal more than anything is seeing these kids that are in the lower levels and they get to move up. And that gives them a much better chance of, if they ever had a chance, of getting to the pros, because they get the type of coaching they haven't had before at a much earlier stage of their development. And then if they actually can make it, then they have a much better shot. So that's what I like about it. Okay, so do you think either player? Have you seen anything yet about whether or not you think either one of them might have a bigger impact, or do you think they'll just, as far as you know, they should both have a good opportunity to contribute?
I think both of them will have a pretty big opportunity. I mean, I expect both of them to start. The one that maybe won't start is if Preston Watson is that much improved as a sophomore defensive tackle, then maybe he starts over Josiah Green. But
okay,
that's another one where I'm not all that confident in saying that Preston Watson plays the same position as Aaron Hall or plays the other position that he can start next to Aaron Hall.
Yeah.
Cooper Barcante, I mean, I expect not a 1,000-yard season out of him, but I expect him to be on the outside and starting and playing well. I think if I read correctly, I think somebody had him as a 4-star out of high school. I don't think he's your typical Ivy League receiver that maybe runs a 4.9 and has just been winning deep balls against some 5'8 corners. I think he's got a little more flash and sizzle to his game than what you would stereotype an Ivy League receiver as.
Hey, well, that's still pretty good numbers, no matter how you slice it, even in the Ivy. So, okay. So I've officially butchered my name for the show. So that's Barcate.
I think so.
Okay. It's not Barcate.
I don't think it's Barcate, but,
okay.
but I could be wrong. You could be right.
All right. Well, at least now I'm on alert. Okay. So, let's continue with some of those transfers, especially Andre Anthony. Now, I'm being a Michigan fan. I know all about Andre Anthony, and I know there was a lot expected of him about 10 years ago. That's how long he's been in college. Obviously a joke, but still, that's what it feels like. So I just can't believe he's still in college. But anyway, I guess this is a really good chance for him because I think it's just a matter of him staying healthy. And if he can stay healthy and he's in the right system, and this is a great opportunity for him with a really young, exciting quarterback. So now, look, if Brown breaks out, that's great. But this has got the makings of potentially a nice little receiving core if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here is they're not that deep, and you're kind of relying on two transfers plus a second year jump from Chase Tyler, maybe a freshman coming on, and then you need Quayshawn Brown and Samir Higgins to kind of be your rocks in that room. Now, it's not like any of those things are far fetched, but it's probably far fetched that all of them happen, that you stay healthy and get all these jumps and the transfers translate and everything comes together. That's where I kind of look at it and say, if Duke hits on maybe 2 out of 4 or 3 of the 5 things that need to happen for receiver, that's where their goal still rings true and can help them. They want to be more consistent and more explosive in the run game this year. They need to be more balanced. They did not run the ball very well last year, especially toward the end of the year when the bodies were wearing down. So I think that happens. It's going to take some better running backs and then some better offensive line play.
King, the tight end, comes from Utah. We have him there as a starter. Do you think he's definitely the starter going into camp?
I'm not sure. Jeremiah Hazley was playing at a high level 2 seasons ago. Had a season-ending injury last year at Northwestern, so he's another one that lost on that temporary field up there. And then, really, the silver lining of not only did they lose Hazley last year, they lost Nicky Dalmolin after maybe 4 or 5 games, maybe 6 games. Jake Taylor was young, and there wasn't all that much to tell you that he could be a starting caliber tight end in the ACC. He was playing really good football by the end of the year.
Okay.
So I kind of look at their tight end position, and all of a sudden I'm saying they've got 3 guys that could wind up as a starter, and you feel good about. So that's another thing that can help offset, as you know, the maybe a little bit more of a thin receiver room is if you can.
Oh, you there, Connor? Connor froze.
Receivers that can.
Okay. I don't know if he froze to everybody out there. You froze to me there in the last 5 seconds. What did you say, Connor?
Yeah, I froze a little bit too. Just was saying that
the 3 tight ends. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have 2 or 3 tight ends you can throw out there, you can offset a receiver room that might be a little more thin than you'd like.
And then the running backs, like you said. So Castle comes in from App State, little production last year. And then you mentioned, of course, we just talked about King. So, and Castle, we talked about Moore and Jones. Will that make up the main room there? Will anyone else have a shot, or do you think it's just those 3?
I think it'll be those 3. Maybe Nate Shepard, if he's really a freshman revelation, he throws himself into the mix. Travis Bates started his Duke career as a running back, was a safety last year. Now he's back at running back, which I don't know. I'm not trying to say the guy is never going to play, but it's never a good sign when you've switched positions twice in your career. Sure. But yeah,
and they can use a safety too. So.
Yeah. That's the other part that was like, wow, I didn't think they'd be moving guys off of that position. But yeah, I think if the position stays relatively healthy, I think Moore, Jones, and Castle are the only 3 you're really going to see get carries this year.
Okay, and then before we wrap up with the final segment, I of course we've saved actually 2 more to go, and that is we definitely got to talk about the offensive line you mentioned. The good part is that there's a lot more experience and holdovers, so that can only be a plus compared to last year.
Yeah, this is where they did some incredible work last. Like for Manny's first spring game, they had 5 offensive linemen suited up. I mean, they had to run a makeshift like 7-on-7
Okay.
for half of the spring game in Manny's first year because the offensive line was such a shell of what it had been. Now they have a fully functioning unit, and they returned 4 starters. Like Fina, Craycraft, Pickett, and Parker, those were all the starters last year at those positions. I think Parker is a future NFL pick. I don't expect him to be at Duke after this season, just because I think he's shown enough already, and I think he's going to have another jump into being a possible like top 3 or 4 round draft pick. Craycraft was broken in last year as a new starter at center, so it's valuable when you have a center that has a year under his belt as a starter.
Yep.
Bruno Fina's PFF grades were a little subpar last year. I not to throw everything into the Bible of PFF.
Yeah.
He was also playing through an injury.
Okay.
So there's a thought that he will be much improved from what he was last year. Jordan Larson is the transfer they had to scramble to get because of the Sahakian injury, and they like him. They think he'll be good. It's always a jump when I think he's coming from South Dakota.
Yeah.
So he'll have a jump to handle, but yeah, they've got a really good starting 4. They think Jordan Larson can plug into that guard spot. Now, if any of those guys go down, you're talking about some inexperienced guys behind them. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But look, I always go to this. I mean, you talk about depth going into a season and depth early in the season where you don't know about a guy. Brian Parker's first start was against Notre Dame in 2023, and we had no idea. Like he's filling in for Grant Barton. Grant Barton we knew was going to be a high round pick, and it was just like, oh my God, Notre Dame is going to feast on this guy who's starting for the first time. He played great, and he's really looked the part since then of a guy that you can put on the offensive line and not worry about that side for the most part. So
Sounds like they got a good one then.
Yeah, they're building on that offensive line. They're doing a really good job developing.
Okay. And so we saved the best for last, and that is Mensa. Because watching him play early last year, it didn't really take long to see the kind of talent the kid had. And that's why I was actually surprised when he landed at Duke, because I thought he could have landed at any place he wanted to that had an opening, which I think is just great for Duke. And that's why I know you go from a quarterback that broke some records and all that stuff, but again, it's Duke. So I don't think there's any question that Mensa will break more records. He's that good. And if he plays the next couple of years and he's coached right, I actually think the kid's got talent to be a high draft pick. So it's just a matter of, again, all the coaching and everything else, but there's a lot to like about him.
Yeah. From what I understand about him so far, from what I saw in the spring game, he looks the part of a star caliber quarterback in a power conference. I think that's coming. I don't know if I expect him to go out there and throw 5 touchdowns a game. I don't know if I'm, I wouldn't because I'm a voter, but if I did, I don't know if I'm throwing Heisman money on him.
Yeah.
But I do think he winds up being one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the ACC this year.
I would agree with that.
And at least, everybody is a potential free agent until we have collective bargaining in college sports, but he's on a 2-year deal. So it's 2 years of this, at least. He's got 3 years of eligibility, but there's a good place to start from with Darian Mensa, and I think Duke can go pretty far with him.